A lot of people don't even know what homeopathy is, and you think, how crazy is it that they could suppress it that much? So this course is really to get people to know how to use homeopathy in the home, number one. So we do recommend that every house should have a homeopathic first aid kit. It's just that first port of call. This world is vibrational. You know that, I know that. But a lot of people don't realize that you can completely change your vibrational vantage point to attract in what you want, just to change and clear out all those cobwebs, whatever it is we were raised with. That leads me to the other thing that we teach, and that is the miasms. That is our generationally inherited energy that every single one of us has. You've got specific homeopathic remedies that when you take, your field is altered. We do believe that the sort of revolution, that we are moving towards is, number one, families and individuals, like households, have to know how to heal themselves, at least be the first line of defense. My kids, they're 7, 6, and 4, and they've never needed an antibiotic or a steroid or anything like that because I use that first. And when we heal our bodies using that holistic vibrational medicine first and foremost, then you're very much less likely to sort of warp your immune system later on in life. Like that vitality stays strong. In homeopathy, obviously that is something that we work with routinely, and we get results that no other modality can.
G'day everyone. It says Matthew, but I've got Melissa here today.
Oh, shame. Let me change my name.
Doesn't matter. Everyone knows you're not Matthew. Yeah. So we're here to talk about Welcome to the Revolution, which is your course coming up in March.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the short course. I've had a few people asking me about it already, so hopefully they can get a bit more information here. But on a light note, I've been carrying like this man bag, like this, they're like army disposable, like calico things. And someone was bagging me out about it, and they said I should get like one of those Eshe ones, but I turned 40 in like 3 months. So do you think it's all right to get an Eshe bag at 40 or not?
Well, I don't know. Get it before you turn 40, then you're sweet, right? Get it real quick.
Anyway,
that's hilarious.
All right. Tell me about how you been anyway. You got crazy busy. I see you going to America in March, April.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm actually going in like 2 weeks and catching up with Alec Zeck and doing a podcast with Alec in Texas, and then there's an LA conference for homeopathy, and that's where sort of like the people, like the leaders, get together and they say, all right, this is what we've been doing in these sort of like groundbreaking new, techniques. So homeopaths always have conferences around the world, and it just keeps it fun. And so Peter, Jean, and I are going. So that should be sweet. I mean, I know LA, poor LA's been hit so hard, but yeah, where we are is still standing.
Are you doing it on the road or are you flying?
Oh, as in from LA to Texas?
Yeah.
Flying that.
Flying? Oh, dude. Always want to do that road.
But we're going back in. Oh, for sure. Why don't you come in? When are we going? April. At the end of April, we're going. And we're doing 6 weeks sort of cruising around. So LA, like down, and Florida, Texas, Nashville, up. I think we end up in New York. That'd be quite a leg, but yeah, you should totally go over there, get a van, and just like explore, right?
I did like when I was 20, I did from Florida to New York in a van.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Just the East Coast, but yeah. All right, anyway, let's beyond that. Welcome to the revolution. I mean, it is a revolution at the moment. Like even like with stuff like I've seen like just so much changing around the health field at the moment. You're like being groundbreaking as far as like everything that you've done that's like taken off far. And
for sure,
you could probably see where this was going anyway. Do you know what I mean? So
at some point, right? That medical model just like had to implode. Like we could not continue. The last 4 years hastened it a lot, But at some point, like we're sort of reaching the end where people are realizing, oh my gosh, antibiotics are not doing what we need it to do. Steroids are not covering it anymore. Now we've got people so chronically sick that they're looking for solutions, and it's just the perfect time for homeopathy, because we were obviously like so up there, you know, even 100 years ago, like we say, there were over 100 homeopathic hospitals across the US. And then you fast forward to now, and people don't even know that. A lot of people don't even know what homeopathy is. And you think, how crazy is it that they could suppress it that much? Now you've got RFK in there. And I remember 3 years ago, I was on RFK's page, and he wasn't like in the running for anything to do with the like presidential nothing. And he responded to a comment about something on a post of his. And he said, oh, if you think this is bad, wait until you find out about the war on homeopathy. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, good. And yeah, I was like, well, at least he knows, right? And it was so funny, like random. But once, this was like 2 years ago, and I was driving and I was sort of praying, and I'm like, what is the best way for me to like reach maximum people and just like let them know that they have the option of homeopathy? Because you and I will chat about it in a sec, but so many people have no idea what they're missing because of the suppression. And at the time when I was praying, I was like living in this most rural like country town ever, and I was just driving to the post office, and this like white sports car just drives forward, cuts me off on like this 100k like one-way thing, like drives around me, and I'm like, and the number plate was like this black personalized plate, and it's just like Kennedy. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. Just like at that exact moment, I was like, that's weird. And I was like, that was 2 years ago. But now I'm thinking like, oh, how funny. Look where he is now. And he just had his organization, that Children's Health Defense. They're now airing the documentary that we aired recently, that like massive one called Introducing Homeopathy. So he's obviously starting to get his like feelers out. So who knows? We'll see what happens, right? But I think it's definitely the time.
That's amazing. So that they're airing that documentary that you showed at the event. So that's on his webpage.
Yeah. So Children's Health Defense. But you know that he's like the CEO. Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah. So a lot.
I didn't even know. I didn't know he'd mentioned that before.
And it was never in a post. It was in a comment reply. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, screenshot. I think Matt, my husband, actually saw it first. And then he's like, oh, babe, look at this. And I was like, oh, cool. And yeah, he's just on the ball. And given how many people follow him from vaccine damage and stuff like that, in homeopathy, obviously that is something that we work with routinely, and we get results that no other modality can. Like, it's just insane. Can I tell you one story, like just now on that? So obviously for our 2-year homeopathic practitioner academy, we take cases, Peter, Jean and I together, and then we show the students, like we show them us taking the case, us prescribing the medicine, then we do the follow-ups, and we just show them the whole process, because we're like, if you guys want to learn to be great homeopaths, you've got to see it over and over again. What we do, what questions do we ask, what information do we need to gather? And we had this girl, and she was a nurse in the US. And it wasn't actually, bless her, she like held out like away from the COVID jab, but she actually got a flu jab to sort of like try and like ameliorate like the pressure on her. She was like, look, I'm not getting that one, but I'll get a flu one kind of thing. And the poor thing, she ended up after that, and she didn't really put the timeline together. But when we looked at it, we're like, okay, everything was like relatively normal. You've had some health blips here and there, but where things really escalated was within the months following that flu jab. And she was getting hives breaking out all over her body. But if it was even like a light touch, so if she picked up a bag and put it like on her shoulder doing the groceries, her whole arm would break out in massive inflamed burning hives, and it was just covering her body. She's in like this crazy pain. It's like lightning pain under her feet. All this crazy stuff was going on, and she was on hardcore drugs like antihistamines to try and just bring it down. Nothing was working. She'd maxed out her American health insurance. They're like, there's just nothing. She spent thousands. We prescribed her 2 remedies, Thuya, Meterinum, morning and night, and just take this, you know, going through. And we caught up with her like 12 weeks later, 80% improvement in this, like, she had it for, I'm pretty sure, a couple of years at this point. And it's like, that's the power of homeopathy to like remember the original assault on the body and then start to heal it. And what was crazy is in the follow up, she takes off her jumper and she shows us her arm where she'd gotten the jab. And it before had been this little red dot that had never gone away. Like most times you get a vaccine, it really would heal and go away. Yeah. It swelled up and she showed us this massive, like, growth lump thing that was now protruding out of it, and it started coming on as soon as she started taking her remedies. It's like the body was like pushing out, like right at the injection point. Wow. And that, like, that sort of stuff is like not even that rare with homeopathy. That's just sort of a recent case that's on my mind, but it's like, it's crazy how much healing can happen even 10 years after the fact, 20 years after the fact. It's like amazing.
I know, like with the prescription, like when you gave me too, it was like this massive emotional release, and mine happened within days after taking it, and they were like hard masses, and they just like popped out, and it was just oozing past, and it looked like they looked like they had to be cut out. They were so hard. So yeah, that's unreal. Well, so like, tell me, so what do people expect if they sign up for this?
Yep.
So and like, I guess, and where can they go from after doing that?
Yep. So this course is really to get people to know how to use homeopathy in the home, number one. So we do recommend that every house should have a homeopathic first aid kit. It's just that first port of call. You know, for example, remember when your brother was in hospital with appendicitis and it's like he's on the brink of losing his appendix? And if people don't have access to remedies, like you had yours on hand, right?
Yeah.
And you went,
yeah, and he went in, and then he was out like in 2 days. It was cleared. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I'm pretty sure you gave him like belladonna, maybe Hepa Sulph, and it was really like a touch and go situation. If people don't know homeopathy at least a little bit, you're sort of like, you're pinned against a wall. The same goes, your kids get like a really bad ear infection. You almost like have to intervene because you're like, oh crap, it's like gotten really out of hand. And so we do believe that the sort of revolution, you know, that we are moving towards is, number one, families and individuals, like households, have to know how to heal themselves, at least be the first line of defense. I mean, my kids, they're 7, 6, and 4, and they've never needed an antibiotic or a steroid or anything like that because, I use that first. And when we heal our bodies using that holistic vibrational medicine first and foremost, then you're very much less likely to sort of warp your immune system later on in life. Like that vitality stays strong because we don't want to be developing, you know, chronic diseases later because we've never let our body run fevers or have flus and stuff like that. So that's why it's so beneficial. So we teach people 30 common homeopathic remedies to have in the home, how to use them, how many drops, you know, and sort of build their confidence up like that. Then we move on to the deeper classical prescribing. So this is like what I gave you. And that's where we take your case and we go, okay, what remedy is going to match you most? For you, we went silica and tuberculinum. And it's like looking at the whole person. And the reason we need to show families this and what's possible and what these remedy pictures look like is because they need to know that homeopathy can do this. Like, it's so much more than just fevers, flus, basic infections, appendicitis, you know, It's like the depths of chronic disease. So in classical prescribing, we look at things like eczema, asthma, hay fever, allergies. People have endometriosis, fertility issues, all sorts of like the pathology that we see these days that's pretty common, right? So we teach them about that, but they will, okay, some of them, they're going to recognize themselves in those pictures and they're going to go, damn, I need that remedy. Like, for sure, that is me. But we're only going to give them 20 of those classical pictures for adults. And then for children, we're going to show them what are the most common remedies for children because it helps kids like so much. If kids have got night terrors, can't sleep, So we show them a bit about that. But I'll give you a story now on Matthew doing homeopathic classical prescribing, but it just like cracks me up. But he's fine with me
Is this
sharing
like
it.
your husband?
Yeah, yeah.
Also, how
And
did you change your name so quick? I've never seen anyone do that. That
oh
was
yeah,
very
I just clicked on the thing and
oh,
it
is
lets
it
you rename. Yeah,
really? All right,
yeah.
yeah, sorry, go on.
Um, and so I have never really prescribed for Matt, um, intentionally. I'm like his wife. I'm like, oh yeah, you're pretty sweet, and he doesn't have any chronic health conditions, so I was never really that motivated. But like mentally and emotionally, and even trauma wise, I was like, oh yeah, there's definitely stuff under the carpet there, like rears up every now and then. But largely, I'm not too phased by it. And so he was watching like this movie, and it's like it was that Indianapolis, the USS, and so they're delivering the atomic bomb, and then the captain of that ship, his ship gets bombed, and then they're all out at sea, and I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like mental. Anyway, he's this captain who's like completely loyal, self-sacrificing, like that the generals of the army where they're like, man, I'd just rather die than fail at my duty, and like all like that. And Matt was watching, and he ends up actually committing suicide, that captain. And Matt's watching this movie, and he is like so emotional about it. Like he's just like, oh my gosh, the captain. He's just talking about the captain the whole time. And I'm like, it's so weird because in homeopathy, we know that captain's state is an aurum metallicum. And that's the energy of homeopathic gold. It's this duty, responsibility, self sacrificing. They're really prone to depression and then suicide. And I was like, it's weird that Maddie is having such a strong reaction to the aurum in this movie. And I was like, I've never even thought about giving him aurum because he doesn't really seem to fit it as much. I could see like a few little things. But I was like, I'm just gonna give it to you and see what happens. And so I just made him up a bottle, and I was like, can you take this for me? And he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Takes a dose and just puts it somewhere. And I just thought he'd forgotten about it. And then for the next 5 days, he is just being like really moody and even like sort of trying to pick fights with me, which is not really like him. And it gets to like day 5, and I'm like, what the hell is your problem? Like, you are being really weird. You're like trying to pick on me. Like, and he just like breaks down, and he's like, it's this guttural, like from the depths of like him, like crying. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I've been taking the aura. Like, oh. I was like, have you? I said, I thought you thought about it. He's like, no, it's making me feel awful. And so like yep, get in the shower, and he just like keeps crying, and he like couldn't control it. Hey, it was just like pouring out of him. And on the inside, I'm obviously like, yes, I got it. Yes. And it was just so full on. And this like continued for about 2 weeks. He just like, it continued. And it was like when we actually went through the books and I explained to him, this is what the aura, and he could completely relate. It's like the aurum people, sometimes from the moment they're born, if they're born in that state, they can have this like heaviness life, like it's almost like a depression their whole life. Now, I've never really seen that side of Matt because I guess he's learned to deal with the heaviness, and he just tries to have fun. But the reality is that he's never really felt just like completely free and relaxed. Like life just comes with this responsibility and like duty, and it's just so his coping mechanism would be to drink alcohol. And it was so interesting when he's in the aurum because he's just having all of these revelations about how he's like had to move away from this like heartbreak sort of feeling to and just use alcohol to like calm it down, numb it out. Yeah. And it was just like, it was so funny. He did that right for the 2 weeks. And then he just says to me, like, that's enough. And the thing is like, people want it to be over in 2 weeks. They want all of the crap that they've bottled up for 35 years to just be over in 2 weeks. It doesn't work like that in the ideal world. You need to take this for like 6 months to get yourself to be your strongest, most vibrant, most like everything self. And he's like, he's renovating our house at the moment. He's obviously with the kids a lot, like stay at home dadding whilst renovating. And he's like, I just can't, I don't have time for it. And yeah, then we went away, and yeah, and he started taking it again about like a month later. And again, like those tears, just like he couldn't hold it back. It's just all this stuff that needs to get out. And so I say that story so that people understand that even for men, there are a lot of women who come to me and they say, my husband just has no feeling. He just has locked it all down, thinks he's fine, he's not fine. And it's like you want to get into homeopathy where it can help them bring it up. Because if you'd asked Matt about any of this painful stuff that was coming up, he honestly was disconnected for he honestly wouldn't have believed that it exists. He's like, nah, life's life, like it's sweet, like just get on with it. He's like, oh, he doesn't like people banging on about the past. He's like, nah, no. And yet the level that he has raised up since then is profound. For a lot of have these unconscious programmings that it takes a remedy sometimes to reflect and bring into your kind of, oh my gosh, this is the vibrational loop that I've been playing, and we can set it right. So, full medicine. One thing that was interesting, physically, he's always say like the last 5-10 years, intense reflux. So the foods that he just can't, it's just like, oh, such bad reflux. And when he took the Aurum, he also felt like his chest was like, it was like real, oh my gosh, am I having a gallbladder like issue or something really wrong? And I said, it's probably the remedy, considering the timeline. I'm like, it's probably the remedy. I was like, just bear with it. So like he was in heaps of pain with it when he got through that initial stage now, and he tried like every food now, not 1 ounce of heartburn. So, you know, obviously that's only a minor thing. We heal major things with homeopathy, but it is energy, and the mental and emotional linked to our physical state. So we want to get strong all over. So we teach people about that so they know no matter what they're going through in life, whether it's like you keep attracting cheating boyfriends or you financially just have this poverty mindset.
But sorry.
You're sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's, you know, this world is vibrational. You know that, I know that. But a lot of people don't realize that you can completely change your vibrational vantage point to attract in what you want, just to change and clear out all those cobwebs, whatever it is we were raised with. That leads me to the other thing that we teach, and that is the miasms. That is our generationally inherited energy that every single one of us has. And, you know, that goes for the physical things. And you see this run down family lines. And you have people, right, like Bruce Lipton, say, love Bruce Lipton. And he says like only 1% of like diseases actually have a genetic factor at all. And the rest of it is just what? But I've taken so many cases, and it is so common that like you see diabetes in the family line, and then it's more common. You know, you see rheumatoid arthritis and it runs down, or definitely hay fever and allergies. You see this stuff run down family lines. And if it's not genetics, what is it? And it's energetics. It's the energy of the body that they have passed on. And that's what we need to recalibrate using homeopathy. So, say in your case, we prescribed you a miasmatic remedy. That was the tuberculinum. That was because we believed that coming down your family lines, there was some sort of respiratory susceptibility somehow that you'd picked up. And that's why you've had this chronic asthma. And there are other things about the tubercular picture that suit you. For example, they're often the wanderer. They like travel around the world, happy not to like settle in one place and be that typical what house mortgage they're usually quite happy and like free spirited. And so we prescribed tuberculin to you, and I think when I told you, you're like, oh, that's funny, I'm pretty sure my grandfather had tuberculosis, which is where that tubercular miasm stems from. So it's that energy is passed down family lines, and we want to clear that susceptibility using homeopathy. How's your asthma, by the way?
It's really good. I haven't had like I used to have attacks. I mean, I used to go to hospital every year,
Mm.
even as an adult. And yeah, like I'm over in Thailand now. I brought a puffer, but I don't even use it. So, but like
Yeah,
I
awesome.
know with me, like for people that like go on that, like I started having dreams and like
Yeah.
memories from childhood that I didn't even know. Or like things started putting themselves together. But that's
So
what I started feeling like around like with the Fibonacci stuff after looking at holographic universe, because they're like fractals in. So it's like they work deeper and deeper into the subconscious as
yeah.
you keep taking it. I don't know how you
And
feel about that, but
yeah, yeah. And dreams are the first sign that a remedy is moving things. So I'll give you an example. I had a patient, and she'd experienced a lot of childhood sex abuse, and with that, like throughout her whole life, had just, even though she'd done heaps of work, right, she'd done all the things, so she'd gotten to herself to a pretty good point where she could have a successful life, but in relationships and intimacy, that's where it tended to show up. And she actually took the remedy Ignatia. She took just like one dose for something else that was sort of acute that she was going through. So Ignatia is usually for grief. When people get some like shock, trauma, and they're devastated. So usually it's like you lose someone or you go through a really bad breakup, but that's where Ignatia is like really powerful. But she'd taken it. She goes to bed that night and she has a dream, and it's like literally, it's like, and she said it was like so lucid as well. Like she's never dreamt like that. And in the dream, it's like she's the mother and she's also the child. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's me. But it's like not me. And she was sort of like confused. But anyway, the whole thing plays out. She becomes the mother who ends up like protecting the daughter. And it's this whole profound thing about like, you're actually safe and we don't need to carry this anymore. It's done. And because the biggest element for her, it wasn't actually the abuse that had stuck with her and like broken her heart. It was actually that she was not protected by parents when they knew. And it's like that for a lot of abuse, you know, victims, that is the sticking point, because it's like, you should never have put me in that situation. But when you found out, you should have moved heaven and earth to keep me safe and everything. So yeah, and then she wakes up that next morning and she's thinking about, she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, clicked for her. And oh my gosh, I've been carrying around this heaviness because of the abuse, thinking like all this stuff. And she like literally started laughing because she's like, oh my gosh, I'm completely safe. I keep myself safe now. Like I'm the adult, I'm the mother in that dream. And like, yeah, we're completely safe, we're good. And she's laughing. And like what she attracted then. So then 2 weeks later, of course, this guy that she had previously, you know, been in love with, but it just wasn't the right time and thing. Anyway, now they're together and happily ever after. But the dreams are significant when they start to change. And for you, yeah, I remember when you told me about the dream you had, and I'm like, I can totally see how that's significant to like your energy in your case. So
yeah, it's like I find it amazing that you're able to identify Matt through him watching a movie.
A movie. And
Like
it's,
that,
it's
that's
the
great.
little
I mean,
things about energy. And
yeah,
that's the art of homeopathy, because you have to think, what makes this person unique? Because if you line up like 30 men, they've got a lot in common, right? And a lot of things, but where you're really looking for is like, what stirs him? Like and this is the thing, the homeopath wants to know like all the dirt. We want to know your phobias, what are your fears, what are your weak points, what do you look like when you're having the worst day of your life and you're just being the crappiest version of yourself. What does that look like? For some people it's like mad insecurities, some are like really aggressive, all spectrum of things. So yeah,
yeah.
that's
But
picking that.
that's a good thing that people can get out of it too, because you can identify your own miasm, and as well like that of your kids and your family. Um,
Mm.
and then so you've got all, and then you got all the first aid stuff, because it's like it's self responsibility too, but it's also getting to know yourself and like and your
It really
how you
is.
operate in the world, and then
Mate, I have had so much healing, even learning remedies. And I know all our students like say the same. They watch our cases and they get profound healing because we can all relate to each other's stories. We relate to the remedies, even like just a little bit. You're like, oh man, I felt that level of insecurity. I felt like da 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 da. And it's so healing just to understand, all right, it's energy and energy can be moved. One of the main miasms that we teach is the Cancer miasm. And it's probably the most prevalent that people, when they learn about it, they're like, oh my gosh, holy crap, that's me. And it's really common in women these days who are just burnt out. They do all the things. And the key essence of the Cancer miasm is that people who are tolerating the intolerable, right? Like whatever it is in life, whether they're in a job that they hate and they are trying to tolerate the intolerable, and then you start to get these symptoms because the spirit, the human body, it cannot survive in this like locked in tolerating the intolerable. It'll find a way out, even if it is by a serious disease like that. So it like that, or an abusive marriage, or just the way that sometimes people just have self-loathing and they're just like tolerating these awful feelings. So that's a really powerful one because you look at all of the physical things that come with that. People are often got a history of like the viral load. So the Epstein-Barr virus, chronic fatigue, they've got gut issues, they've got anxiety that's just like through the roof, they've got OCD, sometimes eating disorders, hormonal issues, endo, da da da. But when people learn about it, they just think, holy crap, I just thought I was alone in this. I thought that was just me. And I thought I was just weird and da da da. And it's like, no. And when they really understand how these energetic patterns come about, you know, whether you were dominated in childhood, had a narcissistic parent, or like who knows what, they realize, wow, this is just how energy works and I can change it. So there's that. The other things that we've got is we talk about complex children because there are a lot of people, a lot of parents who need to know about ASD, PANDAS, PANS, like all ADHD is massive. Like how many people have been diagnosed ADHD? And we want to know
Everyone's
about,
an adult ADHD now. I've just realised.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It's almost kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, my brain fires off in like all
yeah,
these ways. And
massive.
it depends on how intense it is. Yeah, yeah. But you know, you can do things like steroid detoxes, antibiotic detoxes, and sort of you want to clear this load on the body. So we want to teach people about that. You know, what is the role of parasites and mold, and how does homeopathy come in energetically? How do we support the body in recalibrating and keeping a good balance of all these things? And then the last thing is Isaac Golden, who you obviously are very familiar with. He does the homeoprophylaxis. So this is prevention of infectious diseases. When something's going to sweep through, you know, I guess we've got the mosquito issue at the of what they're potentially looking to release. And so in dengue and these sorts of things, you've got specific homeopathic remedies that when you take, your field is altered so that you are not susceptible to these infectious diseases. So Isaac did a lot of work with the Cuban government. Now they rolled out homeoprophylaxis for 2.3 million people. And they compared the results of one side of the city. In these millions of people, they got vaccinated. On this side, they all got homeoprophylaxis. And it was very clear how effective that was. So that data is
I
all
hope
online.
RFK can get his hands on that study and bring that
I
forward. Wouldn't
know.
that be cool?
I know.
I almost feel like that's possible.
Do you know what's funny is that today I actually wrote him a letter and I
Yeah.
sent off some kits, yeah, yeah, to his
Yeah.
Team Kennedy PO box, and I'm like, I put that in the letter. So it's funny that you say that because I did say that.
Well,
It was a shortish letter, but I was like, look at it. Mm.
I think it's kind of possible just because the whole polio vaccine was linked to the JFK assassination, and
I
that
didn't know that.
yeah, so the first SV40 that was actually put into the polio. I can't say too much, it was on YouTube, but they put that into the polio vaccine, and even Lee Harvey Oswald's mistress was one of the people working on the polio vaccine. She and
Yeah.
and Oswald was actually so he was they were trying to get Castro, so it was like a bioweapon to use against Castro.
Do you
Anyway,
know what's funny?
it's a
Okay,
whole other
but on
story.
the
But
note,
RFK is
yeah.
very well aware of SV40, the link to his uncle's death, and yeah, so I
Wow. So
wouldn't be
you
surprised.
know that he knows that. You know that he
Yeah,
knows
he
that.
knows that. Yeah, yeah,
Wow, I've never seen him mention that, but it's interesting because Castro was really, you know, he's obviously painted as awful. I don't know anything about him honestly, but I only know that he had like everyone in their hospitals, they were using sound healing, acupuncture for anesthetics, and he was a fan of homeopathy.
yeah.
He put it further, you know, than anyone else. And so yeah,
Well,
that's
I mean,
interesting that they were trying to
Castro
take him
was
down.
trying to work. He came to America. He was trying to work with the Americans, and they just wouldn't do it. And then so he had to side with the Soviets. But
Wow.
but yeah, yeah. But like RFK always mentions his biggest thing is like the intelligence agencies, which links into the
Mm,
CCP because they've all got military titles and stuff, and it was set up as a military
mm,
operation. But I wouldn't be surprised if that would be unbelievable if that came up.
yeah.
And that's so good
Yeah.
you wrote a letter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I honestly, it's so funny because I said to Ash, I need you to send it off today. I don't know why. I just like, I need you to like send this off for me. She's like, okay, okay, okay. I was like, I've just had some like things happen. So we will see, but it's just putting all of that good energy out there. But yeah, homeoprophylaxis, like looking at the history of epidemics. And again, it's about being prepared because you don't want to be caught, with sick kids or like sick yourself. The idea, and Isaac explains this in the course, is that your first line of defense, it's actually your field. The real first line of protection is vital force. And so what we do in homeopathy is we expose your field to the infectious agent or a remedy that is very similar so that when it comes into contact with that thing with the same symptoms, you don't take it up. So the founder of homeopathy, like 250 years ago, he actually realized this because people were dying of scarlet fever, like intensely. And he was treating a little girl for this like infection on her finger, like it was like red, swollen, and he was giving her belladonna for her finger. And everyone else in the house actually died. And he was like, how did she not even get any symptoms? He was like, oh my gosh, the belladonna. And then he realized that belladonna fits the same picture as scarlet fever. And he was like, wow, we can give it as a prophylactic. And that is really how homeoprophylaxis was born. So Isaac does a lot of that. He does a lot of vaccine detox and healing, and he's sort of world renowned for that. He did his thesis on that at Swinburne University. So he's got a lot of data and facts. So that is the course that we want to share with everyone.
Unreal. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I won't leave you too long. I know you're a busy woman.
Yeah,
So I guess, yeah, so people want to sign up. I've got like my discount code, but they can go to
yep,
they'll go to your website and it's just under
yep.
the shop browser. Is it under
Yeah, yep. And Ash has put in there, so you've got
product?
your options of you can buy kits and the course, and then you get a pretty good discount. And there's a range of different things people can do. And the other thing I will say is, a lot of people sign up to do this short course, and it's like a couple of $100. I think it's like $400. And
Go on.
then they fall in love, and then they're obsessed, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this as a career. If anybody does that and then they sign up to the 2-year course, the next enrollment that goes. So that's for anyone who wants to be a homeopath. The reality is homeopaths are likely to replace your GPs, your medical doctors, as the number one sort of sole healthcare, like first port of call. And then our doctors will help with everything else that's more serious that homeopathy can't address. But we need to lighten the load on our doctors, our hospitals, all of that. And we need to actually address chronic disease. Like we cannot keep going on pretending things are fine. Like they're actually really disastrous. So anyone who wants to be a practitioner, you get that discount. So whatever you spent on the course, that just chips off your 2-year thing anyway. So
It's
heaps
like
of
it's
people
like a
did that in
big
this
crash
round.
course where they're gonna get a lot of information on themselves, how to use all the different remedies, and then get the itch they can move on. Which like we've had some in our SDA course now that doing the 2-year. So yeah,
Yeah,
real. And
it's so
and
good.
they're saying like all I hear about at the moment, like the circles I'm in, is everyone just talks about homeopathy and ley lines. That's it. That's all I hear about.
So good. So
I
good.
think they're both
Oh,
linked.
I love it.
So yeah, awesome.
Fully, fully. Awesome. All right.
Well,
I will talk to you soon, but thank you.
thanks, Mel. All right. Well, I'll leave the links in here if anyone's interested in doing it. Highly recommend. And good luck in America. Have fun.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Sweet.
You're
All right.
sweet.
Have a good day, mate.
Thank you.